Hello, and welcome to another Win Daily Sports Show. My name is Michael Raziel. Today, we're checking out the Week 8 betting lines. I, of course, as always, have my man Sia and Michael, but today, special guest, usual commenter. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is actually kind of bad because now no one's going to comment on the show. We got our boy at eTip11, Eric Tipton. How you doing today, man?
What's up, guys? Happy to be here with these two sultans of sport.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Ooh,
He's complimenting us already. Can he come on next week too?
That's how you do
Let's
it.
talk to Nick.
Only if he stays in the comment section. I really enjoy all your comments and answering, and it's been fun. But now we get to talk to you directly. We get to talk about some of these lines that we're liking, that we're loving, some that we're not. Sia's been crushing it recently. He had the Eagles last week. It happens. I told him not to, but he did it anyway.
I just FYI, I also had them in a much bigger bet on the money line with the Chargers. So I actually came out good there, but I did make a bad pick in defense of your statement.
Yeah, I mean, but like, if you make a bad pick every once in a while and you're still doing really well, it's not that big a deal. You're crushing it, Sia. Obviously, our boy E-Tip here as well. I think I'm going to go with E-Tip. I don't even think I'm going to go with Eric or Tipton. I'm going with E-Tip. He's going to be fantastic. Very excited to hear about it. So, Eric, I guess before we start, tell me a little bit about your betting background, if I may.
Yeah, it's we're going on about 21 years sports betting. Takes me back to Radford University and calling in my first bet via phone to Eric in Philly. Sure he had a nice,
he stole your money.
I'm sure he had a nice professional career doing something other than taking bets. But I remember like it was yesterday. It was my first bet. It was Peyton Manning on a Monday Night Football game, and I threw $25 down, and the rest is history, as you can say. But really took a liking to it. Of course, the rush, just having money on a game in general certainly takes it to another level. But then quickly got into, wanting to really articulate my analysis. And, I play the game of football, and, I wanted to provide some analysis that was really like a sports conversation rather than just a ton of stats or, just really someone's thoughts. So I look to really meld those together. I started posting on covers.com. This is back in early 2000s, and, just really developed a following based on that premise. Really simple sports talk, doing the work to try to find an angle, taking lumps, of course. And then, the matrix starts to come clear at some point. You start to see things that, I have to remind myself that, others just don't see very easily. And, a lot of that now, I think Sia mentioned this on a show before. I'm to the point now where I'm almost waiting till the end to see what everybody else is going to do to really shape what I'm going to do. And, that's being able to just read line movements, read action, and really understanding at the root, what Vegas is trying to do essentially. Posting, developed a pretty big following, took a break for a while when I had a child, went back to covers.com and posted for a bowl season, and really had a pretty unprecedented run. Made 37 bowl selections and went 30-7 through a bowl season. Didn't post again through the regular season, came back again, went 33-15. And then, at that point, professional career starting to uptick, the time it takes to really provide good analysis every weekend. It takes just that a lot of time. So made the decision along with a partner of mine. You've probably seen him on Twitter at Big East. We kind of got together and decided, hey, you ever want to try to monetize this, but not in a way that, that we needed that money to bet with. It was, hey, let's cover our time. And then let's also try to educate the betting population on, the trash that is out there, the kind of scamdy cappers, if you will. But when you cross over or go tout, as they say, it's really tough to kind of maintain, even with the purest of intentions, it's kind of tough to maintain that following. So of course you lose some, but, we charged $99 to cover our time. It was all of our picks, and you really had the intent to share and just educate the business. But, at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit about what the purity you're trying to get in there. They just want to win.
Yep.
And, whether I'm paying you $1 or $1,000, I'm expecting you to win. So it's certainly a cutthroat business from that perspective. But, Yeah, been around the game for again over 20 years. I'm still as passionate as I was the day I started, and this is an opportunity to sort of fire the engines back up. So hopefully I'm not too rusty and I can add some good content here. But good stuff. Appreciate you having me on.
Please. Pleasure's all ours. I'm very confident, very excited to have you on. And just as a shameless plug, the Win Daily Sports Betting membership, $49.99 a month. And our house handicapper's been doing a pretty damn good job. Capper Steve, we appreciate him. So if you're looking for one of those services, as Eric was talking about, you can come on over here. Sia, do you have any words for Eric?
Let me add a little bit to that. So, Eric's been doing this for longer than most people, other than, let's say, a Capper Steve. And so he and that Big East tag, I think it's at big_East. Like they were obviously working together when they launched their handicapping service. And just as an FYI, I mean, these two have like 10,000 followers combined. So I mean, and with all due respect to Tipton's ravishing good looks, it's not his looks and his charm that got his following. So I know I've been tailing Tipton for quite some time. Tipton's also in our big fantasy league where we fly out to Vegas and all of that stuff. So
he's sort of in that the league that you consistently win.
No, that's the league that I won last year. But I wouldn't say I consistently win.
Okay, I thought this was the one you won like 3 years in a row or whatever. I'm
so
sorry, Eric. I didn't.
The other two leagues I've won 2 years in a row.
That's what it is.
This one just once. So anyway, the short of it is definitely lucky to have him on, and hopefully we can have him on in the future.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm excited. Let's get to it, boys. That's enough pleasantries. One last thing, windailysports.com/chat. You want to come hang out. Everybody but Eric, pretty much. You can come hang out, ask us all the questions that you want about your bets, about your plays, whatever you got going. So let's jump into it. Thursday night game. We have the Falcons traveling up to the Panthers. Oh, I didn't even do this on purpose. This is perfect. The Panthers favored by 2.5 points. The line has stuck there. We have about 62% of the bets, about 55% of the money on the Panthers. Over under at 51.5. It's stayed there. It looks like 70% of the bets, over 75% of the money is there. Eric, I guess you're the dude in like North Carolina, I think, right? Let's ask you. What are you thinking?
Yeah, the game is roughly 10 miles from my doorstep, so right in the backyard here. The I-85 rivalry here, they've played once before already. Panthers getting the win 23-16. A little bit more defensive pressure for the Panthers in that game, causing Matt Ryan to pump a few times more than he normally would. He struggled, 21 of 37, 200 yards and a pick. No Julio Jones, I don't believe, in the first game. This time around, the Panthers will be lacking some defensive pressure. No K'Wan Short, no Gross Matos. And I think I just saw today that on the flip side of that, we'll be without Russell Okung too. So a little bit of a dynamic shift there for some missing pieces. Bridgewater, man, he's doing thing. It's looking like a Panthers positive on that switch between Teddy and Cam, especially given the last weekend. But the Panthers off of a heartbreaker down in New Orleans, and so we'll have to see how they react to that coming off a short week. The Falcons find yet another way to choke by scoring.
Yeah.
So right. I don't know how else can you find a way to choke something away, Atlanta. However, this game coming up here, this game is always tense. Short week, Falcons in revenge mode. Hell, the way their season's going, this could be a Super Bowl of sorts with the rival again up I-85. Julio being back certainly changes their dynamic. There's really no one to cover that duo on the Panther side. And Ryan's actually 2010 ATS in night games, this being a Thursday night game. Take a trend and do with it what you will. I favor the over here, but I think I'm going to be on the Falcons as well, unfortunately, for my own Panthers.
Love it. Give me all the points, by the way, as well. All the overs. I want all of them. And I think one last thing. I think Christian McCaffrey may be back. I think it's leaning to no, but he came to practice and was there, I guess. So we'll actually see what happens. I think it's going to be a no. They're just going to give him the extra 11 days. See, how about you? 2.5 to the Panthers. Are you going against Tipton? Or, well, actually, you can't go against Tipton, can you? You've been tailing him for like the last 15 years. This could be a boring-ass show.
Yeah, so short road dogs are doing really well this year. So, I mean, that would lean Atlanta for sure. It would go with Tipton's, everything he just said. I mean, and by the way, it's 2.5, right? So they're like
Mhm.
begging you to take Carolina. They like the bookmakers want you to take Carolina with a line like this. But with all of that said, and I understand, like, they're not going to listen. That secondary actually, Tipton, has been a little bit better than I think everybody thought. But again, it's Julio, it's Ridley. They're not really going to be able to cover these guys. But on the other end, I don't think you can cover Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel either. So I'm just going to go with. And by the way, I think I'd prefer Teddy Bridgewater over Matt Ryan, just in the general sense of things. So I'm just going to go with the home team here. I think they have a little bit more to play for, and I think they're a better team all around. But, they had some of these injuries. It wasn't, I don't think Okung was injured last year, but Matos last week, but Matos certainly was. And, they held up pretty well against the Saints. So you bring in Atlanta, and to me, it just seems like let's just take the favorite here. I hate doing that. I want to take the dog, but in this case, Atlanta's just not shown me enough.
Yeah, it's been weird. You're good.
I wonder how much the Saints pass was their offense a bit limited. No Thomas, right? No Sanders, so it's dump left, dump right. Get that run game going. So obviously Julio being back and Ridley present a whole new set of challenges there. But it's line's 2.5 for a reason. I mean, it's roughly a coin flip. But to see his point earlier, the whole begging you to bet angle certainly rears its head right here with a -2.5.
Yeah, and just of note, our good friend Sticks Picks, obviously NFL content king over here at Win Daily Sports. He actually has Atlanta. He has created a model, and it's been doing well. It's by far not fully matured yet, but his model right now is saying Atlanta by 2 points. So if there's a 4-point swing, 4.5-point swing, that's a lot. So I'm kind of curious to see what comes out. I'm also curious to see what Capper Steve says. So again, come back tomorrow. Win Daily Sports betting membership. Capper Speed's been killing it, but I think I'm going to lean Atlanta, and it's not because I want to see Sia cry or anything. I'm just feeling, I don't know. It's weird. I don't think the Panthers are as good as we thought they were. I also don't think Teddy Bridgewater is that good. I think it's Joe Brady, and I think Joe Brady's getting a head coaching gig next year, and Teddy Bridgewater's coming right back down to earth. So I am pretty curious.
Hot
take. That sounds like the trajectory of Matt Ryan once Kyle Shanahan left.
Exactly.
Which is why I think Matt Ryan's just kind of this average Joe, so to speak.
You lose a really interesting. I mean, I know Robbie Anderson was on Adam Gase's team, so we can't really say anything about that. That's pretty much just a net negative, unfortunately. He's come out, looked good. Did anybody think Teddy Bridgewater was going to throw for this many yards or throw the ball as much as he did? I don't think so. I'm pretty confident that's much more Joe Brady, Matt Rule than that actually is Teddy Bridgewater. So I would like to see what that looks like next year. But granted, I mean, we have a 6-game sample size, 7-game sample size. Really can't do too much with that yet. But I think I'm leaning with you, E-Tip. At E-Tip11 out there, anyone you guys want to go follow him up. So really curious. It should be a fun one. Let's move on. That's our Thursday night game. Let us move on. Steelers Ravens. Ooh, this is going to be a fun one. Sia, we're going to start with you here. Don't worry. Line open 5.5. It is now to the Ravens. It is now down to 4 to the Ravens. So moved about 1.5. The Steelers have 63% of the bets, 80% of the money. We have an over under of 49. That's come down to about 46.5, 46, depending on where you're looking. This is interesting. 66% of the bets on the over, 70% of the money on the under. That's always fun to see. Sia, talk to me a little bit. Do you think RG3 gets in this game? How many touchdowns does RG3 throw? That's the real question.
I think RG3. I think he throws at least 3 touchdowns in this game, maybe 4. Ooh, maybe 4. I'm gonna look for a prop on that, but no. So I think the sentiment from everyone is that the Steelers are a very good team and that 4 is too many points. And by the way, Win Daily, the team before the season started, we were all saying, hey, take the Steelers at 28-1 to win the Super Bowl. Not because we think they're going to win the Super Bowl, because there's so much value in that number, because Pittsburgh might be the 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC. So with all of that said, though, Ravens coming off a bye, I really like the spot that they're in. Let's not forget that Devin Bush is not on this Steelers defense. Mm-hmm. And
Yannick Ngakoue is now on the Ravens defense. That's important to news as well. Sorry.
Exactly. No, it's actually a really good point. I was not going to say that. So at the end of the day, I just think this is a really good spot to fade the Steelers. They've been playing hot. Their defense has kind of collapsed in certain situations over the last few weeks. They haven't been like, they attack and they apply a lot of pressure, but they've been carved up a couple times here and there. And if you don't remember just from last week, the Titans sort of carved them up in the second half. And frankly, I think that was a Vrabel versus Tomlin scheme thing, at halftime. And so I think the blueprint to some degree is there. And if we're going Harbaugh versus Tomlin, I'll take Harbaugh every time there. So I know it's a lot of points, but give me the Ravens.
Ravens at 4?
Ravens at 4.
Okay, so I do have to follow up though. You don't think Lamar Jackson can throw the ball further than I can, or hit a receiver in stride as well as Tipton can? What makes you think Lamar Jackson can do it this week? He's looked terrible this year, honestly.
Well, okay. First of all, I never actually said that. All I said
Oh
was that
my God.
I think Robert Griffin III has a better arm. If we're just talking about pure arm talent, I
Yeah.
don't even think it's a debate if you watch these guys throw, even whether it's college or the NFL, that RG3 has a bit. So you're the one that brought it up. I didn't. I'm just telling you that if we're just talking about pure arm talent, I think RG3 has the better arm currently and always has. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about overall quarterback. And so, of course, Lamar is the better option. And by the way, if the play action and the running game is working properly, he doesn't need to have a super accurate arm because Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews are going to be wide open. Mark Andrews is a huge target as it is. So I don't think you need to be super accurate in this offense. You just need to be able to run the ball and able to run play action.
I guess what I should have said is, why do you think Lamar Jackson can carve up the Steelers defense as we saw Ryan Tannehill do?
I don't think he has to. But that's I never said he would carve them up. I don't think he has to carve them up. I think they have to run the ball well, which I think they will. And when they do, it'll open up the windows wide enough for Lamar Jackson to hit his targets.
Works for me. Eric Tipton, E-Tip, what do we got?
Yeah, I'm going to proudly rep my favorite play this weekend, and I'm going to agree with Sia here. The spot works well, and these points, the hook on the 3, I mean, let's give a little analogy to it is Halloween coming up, right? This hook on this 3 with Steelers, an undefeated Steelers team, is kind of like knocking on the door and getting a full-size Snickers bar, right? That's a big gift coming, right? And I don't know that they build those big buildings in the desert by giving away points that look so juicy you just can't not take it. So it's really tempting to jump on an undefeated Steelers team who had that offense clicking last week in Tennessee. And, how much of that was Deontay Johnson being back? Is he hurt? Is he back? This week they're going to miss Devin Bush, as Sia said, big time. And I think that's a major key here. Harbaugh coming off a bye. He's 9-4 ATS off a bye. The home team dominates this series. The home team's won 25 of the last 38. And again, this is just going to be one sexy set of points. And if that hook stays on there and the numbers stay as they are with, both the tickets and the money being flooded, this is an easy play for me with the Ravens. And I hope it goes down to 3. This will be a big one for me this weekend.
I love it. And I guess a question for both of you, Eric, we'll start with you. 5.5. Would you still have leaned towards the Ravens, or would you have taken most likely the Steelers at that point?
It certainly, would change my thought process a bit. But if it remained there and the weighting of the action still remained the same, that actually would probably have me on the Ravens even more, being as they're giving you more of a reason to, again, with that begging you to bet angle. This just looks too juicy to me. And in the NFL, when something looks too good to be true, it more than likely is.
I love it. See, same thing? Still.
Yeah, I mean, the 5.5, it would definitely change the analysis a little bit. Honestly, it might get me to just say, hey, this is kind of a stay away for me. But it's not 5.5, fortunately. But I'll take it at 4. I'll take it at 3.5. I'd even take it at 4.5. And that's all I have to consider because there's no way it's creeping up to 5. If anything, it'll creep back down.
Yeah. If anything, I think it might come down, as Tipton said, maybe Steelers to 3. This is going to be a fun one. We'll move on. We have the New York Jets traveling to Arrowhead. Game opened, I'm seeing here at -21 to the Chiefs. It's come down to -19.5. Sam Darnold is the quarterback. They did cover last week. Shout out to the Jets. I think it's the first time they covered all year. Granted, the spread was up to about 14.5. I think it came down by game time to about 10.5, 9.5, somewhere around there. The Jets are bad and the Chiefs are good. But man, 23 touchdowns. You don't see that in the NFL. That's a college line right there. Just for sake, 49 over under. We have the over under set at 49, and about 55% of the bets are coming in on the Chiefs, about 60% of the money on the Jets, and somewhere between +21, +19.5. Tipton, talk to me. Where are you thinking with this one?
Man, it's a struggle to find an angle here. Lev Bell revenge game.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have a rule that, I broke myself last week because I actually, for the first time this year, took the Jets. everything just, lined up, and fortunately it worked out. I definitely will be doing it this week. And that rule is you just don't put good money on bad teams. And the Jets are just a bad team. Not saying that Greg Williams can't get hot defensively, which I think he did last week, and took advantage of a struggling Allen with some accuracy. They couldn't get in the end zone, but Pat Mahomes is certainly not Josh Allen. And again, I'm not going to do it here. It's Chiefs or nothing for me. At some point, it'll create some buyback if it gets too high, but I won't be my money won't be buying it back. And there's just not much here for me. So if I had to, I'd take the Chiefs, but I'm just not betting it.
Yeah, it's just so many points. Sia, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs here. I mean, I'll take the bait. You in the NFL, taking a 20 or 19.5, 21-point favorite, you're kind of just asking for it. But we saw what the Jets covered last week, but it's only because Josh Allen sucks. Yeah. I mean, that's why they covered.
Yes.
They had 6 field goals, and honestly, how many?
They missed 2 field goals too. They had 8 field goal attempts in that game, which is insane.
So imagine this. Imagine how many of those field goals get converted to touchdowns by the Chiefs. I mean, it's like very rudimentary what I'm doing, but we know the Chiefs are going to be in the Jets on the Jets side of the field, basically at will. I mean, we're getting to a point where I need to consider like Chad Henne coming in the beginning of the fourth quarter and like some sort of backdoor cover if like Darnold gets benched and Flacco starts chucking it or something like that. I have no idea. But the point is, whether it's Chiefs first half or whether it's Chiefs overall, I like the Chiefs because the Jets, A, can't score on the Chiefs, and B, I don't see them stopping and limiting the Chiefs to field goals. I mean, I think the Chiefs put up 30 really, really easily, and it's probably closer to 40. And so it begs the question, do the Jets put up 13, 14 points? I doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, they put up 10 real quick last week and then couldn't get in anything after that. And, even with the 10-point lead, still lose the game by 8, which almost, again, it came down to 9.5. So it almost covered if one of those 2 field goals, if any of those field goals turns into a touchdown, or if one of those 2 field goals is hit, they cover the spread. So it's kind of ridiculous. One thing I will say, the Chiefs covered the spread significantly last week, would have covered this one as well, and scored 2 offensive touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw for only 1 touchdown last week. They still put up 43 points. Now, I know there was a pick 6 and a kick return for a touchdown. It's just a massacre of poor Drew Lock, but it was, I don't know, man. It's hard to go against Chiefs. I can't take that. 21's way too many, but what do you got?
Is there a more fun, speaking of kick returns, is there a more fun name than Byron Pringle in the NFL currently?
No.
Any active players?
Probably somewhere, but
throughout the show, we got maybe somebody in the comments. Speaking of the comment section, S guy watching again. He was on our golf live stream yesterday, so thanks for watching. John Norrell Tipton has popped into the chat to say how much he loves you. So that's awesome. And Big Theo, who was in our NFL Discord chat earlier today, and who's always in there. I think he might be in the golf chat here and there too. So. Theo, thanks for watching. Appreciate that. So just wanted to shout them out real quick.
Yeah, ask us some questions. Tipton, we usually don't get a guy of this caliber. You think Sia's good at betting? It turns out he's just been following this guy the whole time. So why not ask him some questions?
Let's. I did find another angle though. Be wary with that Chiefs money. The Mighty Panthers are on deck for the Chiefs.
Oh, look down, look ahead. Nice.
This is a sandwich game.
Yep.
Watch out. Right. As I did call the sandwich game, the divisional sandwich game for the Chiefs against the Raiders, did not expect them to lose outright. However, that situation was certainly prevalent there. Probably not the same here. However, beware.
Okay, so real quick before we get to that Titans-Bengals game, C. Wilnaski, that guy's name is Casey, actually. He says Harrison Butker is fun to say. So anybody who's actually listening, if you could kind of type in like fun NFL names or like cool NFL names, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, in a vacuum, please. All right, let us move on to that Titans-Bengals game. Line opened -3.5 to the Titans. It's now moved up to 5.5, 6. I'm seeing 5.5 on DraftKings, 6 on BetMGM. 68% of the bets on the Titans. Almost 95% of the money is there. My goodness. Over under open at 55. It's now down to 53.5. I think we started with you last time, Eric. So Sia, talk to me a little bit. Titans, Bengals, Joe Burrow. Derrick Henry? What do you got on this one? I'm starting
Yeah,
to say names to see if I can find a fun one. So not yet.
Yeah, I love what Joe Burrow was doing, especially for my fantasy team. Because in the league I'm in with Tipton, I actually had him as my desperation quarterback, and he put up about
Nice.
33 points. But
Yeah.
the problem here is, okay, so here's the good news for the Bengals. The Titans defense is just straight up bad. For anybody who doesn't realize it, like this is almost like Seattle Seahawks bad in terms of their defense. So that's the good news for Burrow. Bad offensive line. They don't really create a lot of pressure. But the Titans are also so efficient, whether it's with Derrick Henry or their receivers. The way Tannehill, speaking of play action, like they are just so efficient. I've been betting the Bengals this year and I've been winning. And a lot of it is like backdoor cover-ish. But last week it was just an easy cover against the Browns. Browns were lucky to even win that game. So
you had the missed field goal or the missed PAT. That's the only reason they covered.
You mean the Browns missed PAT?
Yeah. It was 3.
Yeah, well, they also had to score a touchdown with like 20 seconds left to win the game.
Yeah, but if they hit the PAT, you don't cover.
Listen,
I can't call that an easy cover, dude.
To me, it was an easy cover.
Whatever. Your money's
the point is they're usually in the backdoor cover department,
Yes.
and here I don't necessarily see this is a stay away for me. If I have to take the game, I'm taking the Bengals plus 5.5, but I don't like this one.
It's a lot. I'm curious. We can run a lot on the Bengals, a lot. So I'm curious what Derrick Henry's numbers are going to look like. E-Tip, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, it's looking like a stay away for me too. I'm not running to the window to back the Titans defense. I'll tell you that. Burrow's he's been awesome. Been awesome to watch. I shudder to give him this nickname, but Backdoor Burrow seems to
I like that.
just be a thing, and I can't get away from it. I think we're going to start to see a continuing issue here as we get deeper into these games where, the Bengals are struggling with injuries on both sides of their line. I can see Henry left, Henry right a lot here. Both could be a little hungover, right? Tennessee could be hungover from getting up big for that battle of the undefeateds. Cincinnati losing a big one in the final seconds to, cross-state rival. So I'm not feeling like there's just going to be a lot of oomph in this game. And, I could see Tennessee, being efficient and ramming it down the throats. I can also see Burrow slinging it around on that defense. So, again, I'm not excited to lay 6 on the road. I can see Cincinnati having trouble stopping that run, which, as we know, opens a lot of things up. I'm just not excited to run to the window to bet on either of these teams. Gun to the head, Titans, but don't like it. Not betting it.
Yeah, the Titans, as they have been undefeated, they have one very good win, and that was just kind of blowing out the Bills. But everything else has been like dangerously close. Yeah, they covered against the Texans, but if Romeo Crennel gets those 2 points, or if they just kind of score the PAT, they probably don't win that game, and that makes it difficult. So then they actually lose straight up to the Texans, not let alone just not cover. So the Titans have been very weird this year. I would probably, especially because the lines come up this much, if I can get it +6 on Burrow, I think that's the way I would go. And then, sorry, I'm reading the comments. John Norrell thinks Backdoor Burrow does beat Byron Pringle. I'm going to have to agree with there.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, just of note, Carlos Dunlap, 10-year Cincinnati Bengals, just traded today. I think he's going to the Seahawks for probably a conditional 6th or a 7th or something. So just of note.
Real quick before we get to that Rams-Dolphins game, 2 a time. I want to point out that we do the SiriusXM show on Saturday night. We do a couple things on demand where one of the on demand things we do on Sirius is I highlight the stacks, like the DFS stacks that I like and some of the betting lines that I like. Which I'll tell you the Ravens game will probably be featured in that among a couple others. But the point is, I really like the Tennessee-Cincinnati game to stack from a DFS standpoint. There's a lot of cheap guys you can actually get. Obviously, like the Derrick Henrys of the world are really expensive, but the Joe Burrows and the AJ Greens, like that side of the stack. AJ Green, I think, is like 4,800. Burrows like 5,400, I believe, on DraftKings. So, you could stack that side and then get expensive guys on the other side with your Derrick Henrys, AJ Browns. Go cheap on a Jonnu Smith coming off a bad game. But I just kind of want to point that out for the DFS crowd that's listening. That is a game I really like to fly high with the points.
Yeah, 100%. And be on the lookout for our DFS content that's going to be coming out the rest of the week. We already have a showdown article up for Thursday. Appreciate our boy Stoby for that, so you can go check that one out. But we have a bunch of stuff from Nick and from others coming out later in the week. WinDailySports.com/chat. 7 free days in the expert chat, guys. 7 free days. Ask us all the questions you want. Let's move on to a time. We got the Rams traveling east again. Honest to God, has a West Coast team traveled east this many times? I feel like they're on the East Coast like every week at this point. It's just crazy. Not that it
So
really.
So the good news is they play the NFC East when they travel that far. And so it's like
That's
you
true.
get an auto win, but you have to
True.
travel. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like take the good with the bad.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah, the poor NFC East. Rams 3.5 to the giving to the Dolphins in Miami over under 47 opened at 47. I'm seeing 46 right now here on DraftKings. It's about 50-50 split. Nothing of note on that end. I'd say more of the bets coming in on the under, a couple more of the dollars going on the over. So that's of note. But Sia, talk to me a little bit about. Oh wait, did I start with you last time? I have to figure something out. Eric, we'll just start with you. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're closer to Florida than. No shit, Sia's in Florida. Sia's in Florida. Sorry, we'll start with Sia. Talk to me. Boots on the ground. What do we got in Miami? Is it really Tua time?
Yeah, I wish I had a chance to really see him practice. Speaking of boots on the ground, I like Tua a lot. I just don't think this is a good spot. If I was going to roll him out, it wouldn't be against Aaron Donald and their secondary. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of the Dolphins here. I'll make it pretty simple. This is probably a stay away, but I might bet on it. And if and when I do, it's going to be the Rams -3.5 because I just don't like. I think it's going to be a relatively conservative game plan for Tua. I don't think those receivers are really going to get fed like they normally do with Fitzmagic. And I think the Rams are really clever on offense. McVay has the coaching edge against almost everybody he plays. And a lot of these receivers haven't really shined yet. Like the Cooper Kupps and Robert Woods of the world have been kind of quiet the last 2 or 3 games. I think they'll probably do much better against this defense. So all things point to the Rams winning this game somewhat comfortably.
Somewhat comfortably. I'd have to agree. Tipton, talk to me. Do it time?
Yeah. Well, maybe. Tough to come out, and I think like Sia said, I think he's going to be escorted to his seat by Aaron Donald a few times. Probably a big, I don't prognosticate on the DFS angle very much, but I would assume this is a big Gesicki Gaskins type game. Tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend, so I can see him dumping it off quite a bit. I'm really interested to see how much he runs, how fluid he looks, getting out of the pocket, making plays. So that'll be fun to see. Rams coming off a short week, big win over the Bears. Short week and traveling down to the heat of South Florida. But question for you, Sia. I'm wondering if there is such thing as a Miami hangover as there is now in Vegas, as the Vegas Knights saw when they started playing hockey there. Teams fly out to Vegas. Do they party a little bit the night before? I wonder if Miami has a little bit of that. I don't know. Maybe the Rams take off a little bit. Maybe they're not as eye on the ball. However, McVay is 5-1 ATS in these traveling west to east 1 o'clock games. So I think they, just by sheer talent and just overall, just together as a team, they're just in a different place than Miami is. I was high on Miami coming in. I thought Florida's done a great job. Fitzpatrick is fun to watch, but he's not taking them over the top. So lean to the Rams here, but that line's kind of low for a reason. So I'm not too excited about it.
Yeah,
too
I get it.
Excited about it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. And there's no tape on Tua, so maybe it takes them a little bit to figure out what are they doing. Watching Alabama tape. There's zero NFL tape here, so again, I would lean to the Rams, but probably a nothing for me. No bet.
Yeah, I agree. I would lean to the Rams. Probably not going to have too many dollars, if any, on this game. It's just, I don't know, man. Why are you? I understand they had the bye, and that was clearly the plan the whole time. Is after that Jets game, whether it was a massacre or not, ended up being a shutout massacre. They were clearly just going to go to Tua, and that happened. And I don't know. It's just weird spot for it. But after the bye, as you said, Rams on the short week. The Dolphins have a very long layoff, so maybe they can get him ready and get him excited, but I don't know. Definitely don't know. Let's move on. We have the Colts and the Lions. Colts traveling to the Detroit Lions, -3 to the Colts. Whoa, here we go. 54% of the bets on the Colts, over 80% of the money, and it hasn't moved much, fellas. It hasn't moved much. That is something to pay attention to. Tipton, when you see something like that, when you see the bets rather stable, it's like 55-45 split right now, but that much money going to one team and it's not moving at all, what does that tell us?
Yeah, it usually signifies that Mr. Linesmaker is taking a stand and continuing to invite the action. It can depend on the numbers that it's kind of stagnant on, but it starts getting the money, the action starts weighing heavily on one side and no movement. That's typically a clear indicator to me which way I'm going. It's the other way.
So you're more Lions +3 here?
Yeah, absolutely. If that continued to stay like that, and the Colts really haven't been the same without Leonard on the field there, and if Detroit can ride a little bit of this momentum from another Falcons choke job with Swift coming on, that's going to be the key for me. What you call out, Michael, is that if that money keeps going on, and especially if that dips down to 2.5, I'm going to like the Lions even more. Rivers has not been good off a bye for whatever reason. I think he's 5-10 in his career out of a bye week. So yeah, divisional home dog. I'm gonna, or not a divisional home dog. Sorry, I'm gonna take the points with the Lions at home here, and I'm gonna play it.
I love it. I love it. Sia, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is what your best friend, Michael, Josh Applebaum, calls like a sharp line freeze. So all this money's coming in on the Colts, but the line's not going anywhere. So to Tipton's point, what that screams to me is take the team you don't want to take. And for the record, if you're taking the team you don't want to take, that's usually the better side of the line, because you don't want to be on the favorite all the time. In fact, you don't want to be on the favorite even half the time, because that's what the bookmakers want you to take a swing at. So in this case, yeah, the Colts jumps out at me. It's like, okay, well, they have a great defense, and Detroit always just sort of like wilts in any sort of like moderately big game. And so the Colts are just going to smash Matt Stafford. And that's kind of what I think. But then I see the action and I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what the action is dictating. And just like Tipton said, you're either going to stay away from this game because you're a Colts believer, or you're going to take the Detroit Lions. But the smart play is to take the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. This is a good situational learning here. Good bets in the NFL, they hurt. They really hurt to make it. And it's tough for a novice bettor to look at a line like that and just not jump on it. And to take the other side, to actually psychologically put yourself in a position to actually put your money on the other side when everything is telling you shouldn't. That's really where in the NFL, it really separates a good bettor from a bad one. And again, sometimes those good bets hurt, and this one might hurt, but the Lions are the right side, win or lose.
I like that. There's a process. What do we always preach, Sia? We preach the process and how to do it. You're not going to be right every time, but if you follow the process, more often than not, you will come out ahead. Before we move on to the next game, because we do have a veteran like yourself here, Eric Tipton, please, again, ask us all the questions you want. I think this one is really good. Are officials for games known in advance? If so, how much, if any, do you factor into a wagering decision depending on who the officials are? Thank you, Joe of all trades.
Me personally, I never have taken officials in the NFL into consideration. I assume that they are. It's not something I've studied. I think the NBA might be a little more prevalent there. But I'm sure there are some numbers to head referees, and if they favor home teams, are they higher scoring groups? Are they calling more holding penalties? Do they lean heavy to pass interference? And I'm sure that is an angle that some handicappers put into their equation. But me personally, I never have.
Interesting. Sia?
No, I totally agree. This is not the sport to really factor that in. Rich Masana actually chimed in, and he mentioned baseball props as like strikeout props and stuff. Baseball would be the sport I might take a look at that. Whether, if you're looking at strikeout props and you're looking at the umpires that are more liberal with the strike zone, well, I might not be looking at props, but I might be looking at over-unders, for example, in that particular scenario. So, yeah, it doesn't factor into football, whether it's NFL or college, because it's just too much. You can't rely on that, and that the statistical significance of it isn't enough. If one ref is more prone by 4% than the next ref to throw a PI flag, well, how do you really factor that into your analysis? So, no, that's not a consideration at all.
Still a good question, though. I do like
it's an excellent question.
Yeah, keep them coming. Keep all the questions coming. And yeah, our friend Rich Masana here runs soccer and hockey. We just had some good bets in soccer. So again, WinDailySports.com expert chat. WinDailySports.com/chat. Free 7 days in the chat. We had a 4-leg parlay hit today and a 3-leg parlay hit today. But it turns out in soccer, all you have to do is take the favorites and you pretty much just win. So you just smash them all together and eventually the odds turn positive. So that's how I won.
Yeah, what do we
A
need
couple
Rich
bets.
for?
Yeah,
It's easy.
honestly, sorry, Rich. I figured out how to do this. No, I'm kidding. Rich is incredible at what he does. We also have a bunch of people winning on the DFS side over there. Him and Austin have been killing it. Again, WinDailySports.com/chat. 7 free days in the chat. Let's get to an interesting one. This is another one. Let's see. Do we just back Belichick? Patriots +3 traveling to the Bills. It's now up to +3.5. So the Bills -3.5. Over-unders nice and low. 42.5. Bunch of money is coming in on the under. Bunch of money. Here we go. 56% of the bets on the Bills. Almost 70% of the money is on the Patriots, and the line moved from 3 to 3.5. So the line moved in the wrong way that it should have been, right? So again, Tipton, Sia. I guess we have Tipton here. I talk to you all the time, Sia. When you see something like that, is that just the bookmaker saying, like, come on, just keep it coming. Just keep it coming, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I mean that's to me, it's just conflicting information, at least on a Wednesday, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times that's why, I went through a bout where, me personally, I tried to get on lines early and, try to guess what either the masses are going to do or which way a line's going to move. But me personally, I never found great success in it, and just kind of, nestling into what make me comfortable as a sports bettor. I like to wait. And so I'm hoping that something will give me some direction as far as line movement and the percentages of money and tickets and how they'll end up shaping out. But the situation that you just described is just conflicting information at the moment.
Right.
So you've really got to dig.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so we're not going to take it at face value. But Sia, what do you got? 3.5. Patriots taking 3.5 from the Bills in Buffalo. No Bills Mafia, unfortunately. It would have been fun. We'll see dildos all over the field, which is always a blast. But what do you got, Sia? 3.5.
Yeah, I like the Patriots. I like the spot the Patriots are in. I mean, part of taking the Patriots is having some faith in Cam Newton. And after last week, that's really difficult, to be honest with you. But I mean, 3.5 is too many points. It's a desperate team. It's a Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels team. You can run and pass on the Bills. This defense is not what it was, 2 and 3 years ago, or even last year. So, Josh Allen hasn't really been doing much. If anybody's going to confuse Josh Allen more than he already looks confused on a game-to-game basis, it is a Bill Belichick defense. So putting all that together, 3.5 is way too many points, in my opinion. And by the way, the Bills haven't beaten a ton of good teams. I mean, first of all, they should have lost to the Rams. There was a pass interference that shouldn't have been called. They've lost their last 2 games. Have they played the Jets twice already? I know they played them once, obviously, but I think the opening game of the year was against the Jets. So, count all the wins they have and all the wins they shouldn't have had, and you have 2 wins against the Jets and 2 wins against some middling teams.
Almost lost to the Dolphins too.
Right, exactly. Almost lost to the Dolphins, should have lost to the Rams, beat the Jets twice. So it's not like this is like a world beater team. And by the way, if you were ever going to take a prop for like the Patriots to win the division, they're at the bottom of the barrel right now. This would be the time to do it, because I don't think the Patriots have played the Jets once this year. I'm pretty sure that's true. So that's 2 wins right there you can add to the Patriots total that you can't necessarily with the Bills. So that's just kind of a little like futures thing to consider potentially. But no, 3.5 is too many.
Too many. What do you got, Tips?
Yeah. Cam Newton. Woof.
Yeah.
God,
True.
Looking eerily similar to his last few days in a Panthers uniform. Short hopping receivers. Didn't really run that much. Is he injured? Is he not? Did he re-injure something?
I think he just sucks. I've been saying it. Like, he looked really good for one game against the Seahawks, and then we realized, wait, the Seahawks have possibly one of the worst defenses in like recent history. And ever since then, he hasn't been able to hit a single receiver. They've kind of just keyed in and understand, like, all right, if we just make sure he doesn't run the ball outside, like, I think we're okay. And look at that. Patriots, they lost to the freaking Broncos, and they look like dog shit. Like, what is going on?
I love it. I love it. I love the setup. You're segueing into my point rather nicely. Look at how bad they look. Just can't get out of their own way. 28 points over their last 3 games. Get ran by the 49ers, just getting run on from left to right, that horizontal run game that that was put together on them. There's another old adage here. I don't think this falls into Sia's phrasing that he doesn't like, but
oh, you watch the show. Wow.
Nobody, for the most part, right? Take everything, not to be 100%, but nobody's really as good or as bad as they were the week before in the NFL. And this is setting up so nice. The Patriots just look like crap. And let's take another angle here. Let's look at the who's better off without who between Brady and Belichick. Look what Brady's been doing the last 2 weeks, just carving up left and right. And look at lonely Bill over here, just can't get out of his own way. They can't find anything. Now, granted, they're still probably feeling a little bit of the COVID holdouts and things like that. However, this game sets up really well for the evil genius to put a plan together and do the thing that he does the best, which is take your one thing away. And if I'm looking at this game, the one thing he's got to take away here is Allen running the ball. I mean, he's if you're asking me what I want him to do against me, throw it all day, right? So let me take that run away. I think there's going to be a plan there. And again, I just think the setup here is so real. Brady's on top of the world. Belichick can't go. Cam couldn't throw a ball 15 yards. They just got boat raced against the Niners. And now they come in, divisional game, getting a couple points here. The Patriots have won 30 of the last 33 matchups with the Bills. And remember, it is Halloween this weekend. Ooh. Bills could be seeing ghosts in the form of a Patriot. So I really like getting the points here. I think they come up big here. I also like the under as well. And I can't see them scoring a ton. I mean, I don't expect, that is real, right? They've only scored 28 points over the last 3 games. So I don't expect them to come out and drop a 28 on the Bills. So I see a low scoring game here. Low scoring game plus points tend to be correlated. I like the Pats and the under.
Yeah, it's I think I love all the things you said, and I think everybody else is thinking that too, though. Right? I think everybody else is thinking there's no way. And it is, the old adage, as you said, you're never as good as your best game. You're never as bad as your worst game, right? And the Patriots look absolutely terrible the last couple of weeks, but it is a divisional game. They're getting 3.5 points. It's very, very difficult to say, oh, the Patriots are getting 3.5 points. How can we not take them? I'm going to be on that side too.
No,
I think the Patriots win.
I don't agree with that. I think people think it's the Bills' time, and it's like the Bills' time to win the AFC East, and they're just going to be marching easily to that with New England failing with Cam Newton. Honestly, the people I've talked to, the sentiment is different than what you just said. I mean, I understand what you're saying because, I mean, we agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I think people think the Bills are like the team right now.
Damn. Well, they're wrong, unfortunately. I think it's the Dolphin. No, it's not Tua's time yet. Tua time. One thing I will say, Tipton, when you said nobody, I thought you were going to say nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So you got me on that one. You definitely got me on that one. Let's move on. We have the Raiders traveling to Cleveland. Line open at 3.5. It's now down to -3 to the Browns. You can actually get it plus 2.5 Raiders on FanDuel. It looks like -3 to the Browns on BetMGM. Raiders, over under started at 55.5. That's come down pretty significantly. It's now down to 50, 51.5, depending on where you're looking. And 61% of the bets, 75% of the dollars coming in on the Raiders, presumably at around that 3.5, 3 number. Tipton, Raiders, Browns.
OBJ, have we seen the last of a good OBJ? It's a tough loss.
Yeah, a couple years ago when he was with the Giants.
Yeah, I think Browns will probably circle the wagons a little bit. I don't think they'll miss him too terribly bad, to be quite honest. Right? I think Baker's dealing right now. They've got enough weapons there. This game is weird. I can't get a good read on this. The Raiders don't present too scary of a defense overall. So I think Mayfield still finds some success here. On the flip side, I think Myles Garrett, Olivier Vernon, I think they can get home, especially if Trent Brown's not back. But I don't know if what I'm seeing from a line perspective, opening at 3, if it dips below, that's going to really change my thinking to start thinking that the Raiders may be a play here. And going back to that last second game, you can ride that momentum as the Browns, or you can be really high and take you a little bit to focus. in this next game. I can't really get a read on it right now, so I'm not playing anything as it is at the moment.
I like it. Just a couple things. One, our friend Casey. I love this stat. This is awesome. Since Baker joined the NFL in 2018, QBR with OBJ on the field 79.6, with him off the field 116.6. They kind of. I always thought it was really dumb that they got Odell Beckham Jr. I'm not angry that they gave all the draft picks and salary cap to the Giants, but it never made sense to me. Yeah, you don't have to feed him the ball anymore. Now you just have one wide receiver complaining. You don't have two, which I think is pretty important. Also, oh, now I forgot what that second part was. Anyway, Sia, what do you got for this game?
Well, I mean, first of all, just to just give a blunt answer to the question that Casey's asking, I think the answer is yes. I think just like you said, you don't have to to force OBJ the ball, and so you're probably. I don't know if Baker really is going through his progressions or not, even whether OBJ is on the field or not. But like when OBJ is on the field, if he's the first read, I feel like Mayfield's like just throwing it to him because. And by the way, when Hugh Jackson and who was the coach last year, Freddie Kitchens, they would like make Mayfield throw him the ball in the first quarter like 10 times just to like make OBJ happy. So of course that's not going to be good for business. The defenses know you're going to do that. So yeah, I think there's definitely an argument that he's going to play better, but he's still a below average quarterback. So I'm not sure it really matters too much. With that said, I like the Raiders here. I'd love to get it at 3. I mean, it looks like you kind of have to shop around for that. 3.5 would have been amazing. I'm shocked the line opened at that. I agree Myles Garrett might get pressure, but that Browns defensive line really doesn't create as much pressure as people think ultimately. So I think Derek Carr is going to have time. He's been hitting people other than Waller. And, he doesn't even hit Ruggs. Like he's got Nelson Aguilar that he's hitting deep. So there's just, Josh Jacobs is running the ball well. So obviously Kareem Hunt will be able to run the ball well, but I'm not going to lean on those Browns receivers. I think that the edge is with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders. I probably said Oakland before when I was speaking, but it should be a fun one. Still a very high point total, so I'm excited to watch that game. Last 1 o'clock game, we have the Vikings traveling to Green Bay. Looks like the line opened at 6.5. It's now 7. They got us. 62% of the bets on the Packers. Over 90% of the money on the Packers. Over under opened at 56. It's come all the way down to 51.5. That's a lot. Sia, I know we saw the Packers kind of kick the shit out of the Vikings in the beginning of the year, but do we see that happen this again? 7 points. That's a lot of points here.
Yeah, this is a stay away for me. If I have to take something, I'm going to take the Vikings because I think it is too many points.
And one last thing. Yes, appreciate you, S-Guy. Aaron Jones is most likely going to be out, which is right. Weird. And Philly Mambi. Yes, you can watch us on YouTube. You're watching on Periscope now. It should live on Periscope for a minute as well. Wanted to know where you can watch the replay. If you just want to listen to us, Win Daily Sports Podcast, go subscribe and like. We appreciate it.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Win Daily has its YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, type in Win Daily. You'll find our channel. Subscribe to it. And then anytime we have a live stream, you can literally check us out on Twitter, Twitch, or, of course, YouTube. Probably some other Periscope, some other platforms too. But most people watch us on Twitter and YouTube. So thanks for asking. But I mean, 7 seems like, listen, it's so hard because the Minnesota offense sometimes like really clicks and sometimes it doesn't. I expect Aaron Jones is probably going to be out. They're going to be really cautious with him. And by the way, why shouldn't they be? They're playing a team that they expect to beat. So at the same time, Dalvin Cook might be back. If he's back, I really like the Vikings. If he's not, I probably would go the Packers way because as much as we might think that Madison like spells him, he doesn't really. He's like maybe 70 to 75% the guy that Dalvin Cook is, and that's just not enough. But I think Jefferson and I think Thielen will be just fine in this game. I expect it to be relatively high scoring. This is a nice game to stack, although everybody you'd want to stack in DFS is kind of expensive, unfortunately. But yeah, I like the points, but it's probably a stay away for me.
It's going to be an interesting one. I do think Justin Jefferson, I don't think had a single target in the first game. If I'm not mistaken, he had 0 catches. He might have had a target somewhere, but now he's very much integrated into the offense, and he's looked awesome this year so far. So shout out to the Eagles for making the wrong choice yet again at wide receiver. Could have had DK Metcalf, took JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Could have had Justin Jefferson. They took Jalen Reagor. Screw you, Philadelphia. Screw you. Oh, I'm sorry, Philly Mommy. I didn't mean you. Actually, yeah. Philly, I don't even care anymore. E-Tip, what do we got?
Yeah, to that point, Justin Jefferson was even there in game one. Jair Alexander is pretty much able to erase Adam Thielen. So, if he does that now, Jefferson presents here now since he's been in the game. They played the Seahawks and the Titans tough. They blew the doors off the Texans. So perhaps they can hang 7 here. And, back to the earlier numbers, I think the books they might have ran out of ink last week writing all the tickets on the Packers against the Texans. I certainly took the Texans. We had one of those situations where that line was kind of hanging, right? It was hanging at Packers -3.5. I think I even had 3. So it was screaming to take the Packers, and they couldn't. Again, they couldn't write enough tickets. But to the Packers' credit, they came out and did what they had to do, and they put the hammer down. But I think 7's too much here. I think the Vikings are a different offense. They're coming off a bye week, I believe, so perhaps Zimmer can scheme up a little bit differently. Not sure of Bakhtiari's status, so that could come into play here. If Cook is back, I think there's enough offense here to hang. And they got their doors blown off by a division rival, so there'll be a little extra focus this week from the Vikings.
A little extra. Does that mean you're taking the Vikings?
Yeah. I'll take that. I'm leaning.
Okay.
I could see myself.
We'll come back later in the week. We'll see. We'll see
Okay.
where you go with it. But I think it's interesting. This over under though. I mean, we saw. I think the first time around it was like 65, 64 they hit. It started at 56.5. It's 56, come all the way down to 51.5. That's a pretty big swing. See it? Anything on that side? You think it's gonna go under, stay over?
No, I think it'll go over. That's a huge swing, though.
Yeah,
but I
right?
mean, you're obviously getting value at the 51. And if you took that at 56, like you're hating life right now. So, no, I mean, I just think the Vikings defense can be exposed in so many different ways. So, and I think the Packers defense can too. So, yeah, I think this shapes up to be, even if you got a situation where the Packers, because the Vikings aren't really a first half team, but the Packers, I think, are. So you could have a big lead, and then all of a sudden Kirk Cousins has a quarter and a half of garbage time to throw to Jefferson and Thielen like he's been doing all season. And so all of a sudden a total that looks like it's going to end at 40 ends up at 60.
Keeps Aaron Rodgers, keeps his foot on the pedal. Anything from you, Tipton, on that over-under? It's a big swing.
I swore off totals so many times in my betting history. Everything's always inflated to the over. It's so easy to take the over. It's everything. Everybody wants to bet on a favorite and an over.
Hell yeah.
It's really it's one of the few bets that outside of a prop that you can actually lose before the game is over. And literally, you take the under and it could just be done in the second quarter. I try to stay away. I do my best. I get sucked in every now and then, but I'm early in my recovery, so I'd appreciate and no more total asks. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna give the numbers, but I won't ask you any more questions. All right, so we have about 5 games left here. We have some 4 o'clocks, then the Sunday night and the Monday night. Geez, the Sunday night and the Monday night games have NFC East teams in them, so we don't even have to watch those. How cool is that? We have the first 4 o'clock game. Yeah, it's bad, man. It's real bad. Starting at 4:05, we have the Chargers traveling to Denver. Line open -2.5 to the Chargers. Looks like it's up to 3.5 here on DraftKings. About 60% of the bets on the Chargers, about almost 90% of the bets on the Chargers as well. Over under 44.5 has only moved about a point from 45.5 there. Tipton, Chargers Broncos 3.5 to the Chargers. How you feeling about that one?
Don't like the game. The Broncos can't get out of their own way. Lock is just a walking mistake.
Yeah.
I do think
still beat the Patriots. Jesus,
they did. Again, setting up for that versus the Bills as an underdog. But I think the football team would like to redraft and take a certain quarterback that's over there in Los Angeles right now. They were in a scrappy game with the Jags last week. Half their O-line, I think, still on the meat wagon. Broncos probably going to give a little bit more of a push up front than the Jags did. It's always a little hairy going to Denver, divisional game, divisional home dog. Just a lot of stuff. The line's right where it is. It could go either way. It's a coin flip for me. I don't really see a nice angle either way to get me excited. So, gun to head, I'm taking a home dog, but it's likely to stay away.
It's a weird one. And Justin Herbert has looked way better than I expected. I'll stay short of fantastic. He's looked way better than I thought he would. Should have won that Chiefs game and said he had that awful interception in the second half. That was just backbreaking. Sia, what do you got here? LA Chargers, 3.5 points to the Broncos?
I was on the Chargers pretty big last week, and that ended up covering, but it probably shouldn't have. Jacksonville tied that game up late because listen, okay, so
weren't they winning that game late? Wasn't
yeah, they were winning
29.
29. They were winning 29-22, and then all of a sudden the Chargers took over.
Yeah.
But the Chargers had an early lead, and honestly, against Jacksonville, they should have been able to protect it. But you cannot underestimate the incompetence of Anthony Lynn, and so that's where this analysis comes in for this game. I'm getting 3.5 for a team that historically cannot hold a lead. And by the way, the Broncos, whether it's the Patriots or some other games, the Broncos have flashed here and there as like, oh, this is a fully competent team. Obviously, they have a lot of injuries, and that hurts. And looks like I'm pretty sure Phillip Lindsay isn't playing this game. So you've got like Melvin Gordon and Royce Freeman essentially running the ball. Jerry Jeudy's been playing a little bit better. DFS, he's 4.8K on DraftKings. It's something to consider. Noah Fant's in there, and of course the Chargers have plenty of guys to play on that angle. But I like the 3.5 points. Give me the Broncos. I have no faith in the Chargers protecting a lead. So, granted, normally when I'm doing backdoor cover analysis, like I want it to be a quarterback that's playing a little bit better than Drew Lock, but still 3.5 is too much. I could honestly see the Broncos winning this game outright. Particularly at home, by the way, in Mile High. Like, you don't have the fans, but you do have the Mile High air, so that could potentially factor in here too.
Definitely something to pay attention to. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos win this game as 3.5-point dogs. But I don't know. Justin Herbert's been playing better. You hate Anthony. Actually, Tipton, do you hate Anthony Lynn as much as Sia does? Because I know the answer is no.
Sports hate, you mean, right? Sports hate.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure he's a fine
He's like a nice man.
I got nothing against the guy there, but damn, he's terrible at his job.
Well, I mean, I have to say, Hard Knocks strikes again. You kind of learn you get a little window into or get some insight into some players you really never did, and coaches too. So, yeah, unfortunately, I feel like he's untrustworthy as a bettor to go on the road and lay points with. So, yeah, I'm 1 foot in the camp. We'll see you there.
You're such a nice guy, Tipton. You're such a nice guy. Let's move on to the next game. We have the Saints traveling to Chicago. It is the Saints -4 on the road. And if I'm not mistaken, please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first outdoor game that the Saints have played all year. I saw that somewhere because they've been either at home or in domes the rest of the year. So this is the first outdoor game. It's in Chicago. I don't think it's like real Chicago weather yet. I mean, it's going to be November 1st. So we'll see what happens, but it'll be a little bit chillier. But Saints -4. Bets are pretty much split. Money's pretty much split. Not really sure why the line moved as much. Maybe some sharp action early, and then people came in late. Over under went from 47 down to 43.5. So people do not think there's going to be too many points in this game. Mike Thomas most likely going to be out again, if I'm not mistaken. I think I think Emmanuel Sanders was held out of practice today. Callaway was held out of practice today. So I guess it's like just Jared Cook and Alvin Kamara there. That should be fun. Sia, what do you got? I mean, we think the Bears suck, and they do. But do you think they cover the spread here? This is one of those games where we just saw them get blown out on Monday night, and they totally turn around and just beat the Saints outright.
Yeah, I love the +4 here. I don't like betting on the Bears, and I think Nagy is speaking of bad coaches. I mean, if we're gonna do like a top 5 bad coaches, I think Nagy and Anthony Lynn are in there. Joe Judge is in there. I mean,
he's had 6 games, man.
But we knew he was terrible going in for 2 reasons. One, because he's never coached before.
Give me a year.
And 2, he was hired by Dave Gettleman, which is like enough evidence to know that this guy was not competent to coach the team.
The Dave Gettleman thing I'll give you, but John Harbaugh was a special teams coach. He won a Super Bowl. I don't know. Just
all right. Well, we all have our outlier examples that we can give. So congratulations. That's a good one. But no, 4 points is too many. The Saints are devoid of talent outside of Kamara. Like Kamara and Latavius Murray will have a fine game. Taysom Hill will get in there and probably have some nice, like cool, neat little tricks up his sleeve. But outside of that, they don't really have anything. And Breeze is outside, and the weather's not going to be great in Chicago, I'm pretty sure. So even though Chicago is devoid of talent, I mean, Montgomery is like, come on, like, what are we doing here? And then, Allen Robinson, he's in concussion protocol. That's not good. Might be a nice time to maybe put Mooney in your DFS lineups as a long shot, but no talent on the field. Away game +4 is too many. I mean, I think the Saints probably win, but it's a super close game in my opinion.
Yeah, they couldn't cover last week. What do you got, Tipton? +4 to the Browns or the Bears as well?
Yeah, I really want to jump on the +4 right now. But the lasting memory of that fraudulent 5-2 squad getting beat down on Monday Night Football is there, and everybody watched that. And I'm sure that's figuring into a little bit of this line move. Is if you think they're a fraud, right? You were proven right, um, but they somehow eked out an ugly win against TB12 at home. The
And the
Saints,
Giants. The Mitch
yeah, yeah,
Trubisky-led Bears won
true.
that game.
Breeze's home road splits are well documented. I think we've even chatted about this, a little bit on one of the previous shows. Saints are just 13-17 on the road as a favorite of 4 or more since 2010. Again, Bears off a short week and getting beat up like that. It's hard for teams to recover and erase getting beat up like that out of their memory and turn right around and get ready to go. But again, outside on grass, the Saints become a different team. That they're again lacking some of those offensive weapons. I don't think this should be too hard to game plan against what should be a bunch of short passes. Maybe Kamara even runs the ball this game. I don't know. The Bears couldn't really stop the run Monday night. I want to take the 4. It's the side I'm leaning to. I probably will find myself there. I'm just not quite there yet. I want to see if the Saints continue to get this money and see what happens with a little bit of the move. But I'm definitely leaning Bears. I want to take them. I'm just not there yet.
All right. I get that. Yeah, I think it's so weird after just watching them get the doors blown off them in that game. It's one of those like, well, yeah, of course they're going to get crushed by the Saints. But again, Saints outside again, first time outside of a dome all year. We're in November for them. That's just like a weird little statistic. I don't know. As you said, the Saints on grass, it's never the same. So, and yeah, as Sia said, the Saints are also devoid of talent. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints win, but it's only like 1, 2, 3 points, maybe. That would probably be the most likely outcome. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears just win outright in a ugly, like 17-10 game. That would be shit. I wouldn't have to watch it, but man, that would not be fun at all. Let us move on to the 49ers and the Seahawks. A lot of fun here. We have the Seahawks opening at -3. It's now down to 2.5, over under at 54. That stayed about the same. We just watched the 49ers kick the shit out of the Patriots. We watched that wild game. I actually didn't. I was watching the World Series. That wild game between the Cardinals and the Seahawks, where the Seahawks probably should have won, but their defense is so bad that they weren't allowed to win that game. So, Tipton, I'll start with you. -2.5 to the Seahawks. I mean, over under a 54. So let's all just collectively agree we're taking the over. I know, Tipton, you're not into it. Let's just all agree we're taking the over. How do you feel about -2.5 to the Seahawks?
They better hope that the Bengals' all-time sack leader comes in and can provide some kind of a pass rush to help that defense. They're constantly abused, and I'm sure the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan will have a nice scheme there. Russ gonna have to keep cooking, as they say, right? There's nothing going on in the backfield yet again.
Chris Carson may be hurt, should be hurt. I don't think he's going to be there for this game either.
He's not playing.
Yeah, he's not playing.
So I'm sure they're looking for that mouthwash to get rid of that stench Kyler Murray left in the mouth last weekend. I like taking good quarterbacks off of losses, or elite quarterbacks, I should say, off of losses, right? Aaron Rodgers last week in that bounce back or that FU mode. But I don't think I can pass up the 49ers as a dog here. And if they continue to stay that way, I'll probably be back in the 49ers.
2.5 to the 49ers. I like that. Sia, how about you?
If the number is Niners +3, if that's the number you get it at, I would recommend taking the Niners. If it's 2.5, it's a stay away for me. I mean, that's pretty much the beginning and the end of my analysis, because I agree with what Tipton said. I mean, I think the thing about the Niners that make them so good, as long as Jimmy Garoppolo is even like halfway competent, which 2 games ago against Miami he wasn't, but he was, the week right after that. So he doesn't throw the ball down the field, but it doesn't really matter because Kyle Shanahan creates space for his receivers. His receivers are unless it's Kittle, his receivers are almost always catching the ball in space. Now, Debo is out. That hurts. Mm-hmm. We don't know what running back is going to be healthy, but typically that doesn't matter for the Niners. It's just kind of a plug and play. But they do potentially have a lot of guys, a lot of running backs that might not play. Like we know, like Tevin Coleman might play, but that's pretty much all we know outside of McKinnon and Hasty. So with all of that said, The injuries have me a little kind of worried at 2.5, but I think 3 is the right number.
Yes,
that I would actually take.
Yes, Mostert on the IR. Jeff Wilson Jr., who just had an incredible game, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards last week. He goes on the IR. As you said, Deebo Samuel popped his hamstring, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not on the IR. Wouldn't be surprised if he landed there. Yeah, 49ers, man, they are just getting crushed with injuries. Still 4-3, though, and have taken a likening as well to the NFC East. Just everybody's just eating up on the NFC East this year. I don't get it. I mean, actually, I do. And they're terrible, but let's get to it. Of course, they could flex this game, but they decided, no. You know what America wants to watch? Do you know what America wants to watch? They want to watch the dog shit Cowboys travel to Philadelphia and play the dog shit Philadelphia Eagles. This game is going to be so bad. Honest to God, that Thursday night game, I told all my friends, that was one of the worst football games I've ever watched in my entire life. Yes, there was points scored. Yes, Daniel Jones fell down, made up for all of it. But that was one of the worst football games I've ever physically watched. Both offenses were incompetent. Both defenses sucked. And here we are. They give it to us again. Thanks, NFL. We appreciate you only caring about ratings. So we have the Cowboys. Line opened at -7.5. We have the Cowboys traveling to Philadelphia, -7.5 to the Eagles. It's moved up. Looks like you can get it at -9 on PointsBet. If you're feeling that, you can get it at -8 or +8, depending on where you want. At DraftKings, over 60% of the bets, over 85% of the money coming in on the Eagles, and the under of 43.5. Over 77% of the bets are coming in, but over 70% of the money is on the over. So that's, at least we're rooting for points. I'm happy about that. Sia, you hate Philadelphia almost as much as I do. Did the Eagles cover 8 or 9 points, depending on where you're getting this? We'll go with 9 just because it's a bigger number.
I was wondering what this was going to open at, because on the sports book for play money that I use,
Yes.
the line's still not up there. So like looking at what we're looking at is the first time I actually got a chance to see what it would be. I was sure the line was going to open at like 10.5 or 10. 8 is no, I'm sorry. Like, give me the Eagles. Like, this is not even, Dallas is so, and if it's Ben DiNucci, I don't think Andy Dalton's going to be cleared, but to be honest with you, it doesn't matter. If it's Andy Dalton or Ben DiNucci from James Madison University, my alma mater. So good for Ben getting in there, but like, he's clearly not ready. There's no, I mean, and the Eagles defense
he was never supposed to touch the field this year. 7th round pick at a JMU. He shouldn't be on the field. What the hell is that?
Right. And it's kind of like, wow, he's even on the team. That's great. They, they carried 3 quarterbacks, or maybe they had just pulled him up from the practice squad, I guess. But at the end of the day, the Eagles defense is not terrible. I mean, it's their offense that's been terrible. And that, I don't know, Jalen Reagor might play. I don't think Goddard's going to play, but the other guys, Fulgham, JJ, they've been playing well enough. And whether it's Boston Scott or it's going to be Boston Scott, like, I just think this is going to be a slow death, just like what Washington did to them. I don't see this game being close. I just don't.
You make a good point. I'm curious, though. Tipton, Sunday Night Football, America's team. Everybody loves to hate them. Cowboys going to Philadelphia. It's a terrible place to. I've been to Philadelphia for a night game, literally had bottles thrown at my head. So frig off, Philadelphia. I hate you. Tipton.
Philly Mombi is watching.
I'm sorry, Philly Mombi, stop throwing glass bottles at my head, and maybe I won't hate you as much. I think that's what it comes down to. Tipton, what do you got?
Yeah, maybe a couple of Virginia small college players on the field at the same time with Cowboys quarterback and a little Fulgham from ODU.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe there's a couple other in there. I was born in Virginia, so a little inside track there. I don't know how you can remember what we said earlier. Didn't we say good money, bad teams, not a good idea?
So you're just off this game.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly not betting the Cowboys. And if you needed to know, the State of the Union there, when Mike McCarthy has to come out and essentially call his team out for not sticking up for your quarterback, nearly being decapitated. What's going on in that locker room? I mean, no one cares. Zeke can't hold on to the ball. You might even try to find an angle that, okay, well, now it's Zeke's time to shine, but he just looks completely disinterested. The O-line, yet again, and the recurring theme is a mess there. It's certainly Eagles nothing. Dallas has yet to cover the spread one single time this year. It's Eagles or nothing. If you bet the Cowboys, I can't be your friend.
Oh, geez. I was gonna say I'm taking the Cowboys just because this is a spot the Eagles are that stupid to lose. Like, this is one of those games that there's 0 chance they should lose, and I still don't think they do, but somehow, some way, it's a 3-point game in the 4th quarter with 5, 6 minutes left. Like, there was 0 shot they should have lost the game against the Giants last week, and they should have. Evan Ingram drops that pass, which was, like, one nice throw Daniel Jones
Yeah.
had. Eagles should have lost that game. There's 0% chance they should have lost that game. This is one of those, I hate both teams, so I will not bet it. But for some reason, I've watched too many NFC East dog shit games that I don't know. I think it's the Cowboys. I think it's the Cowboys. And we have Philly Mambi over here. Philly Mambi, you can say whatever you want about your city. I hate it. And there's nothing you can tell me. There's nothing you can tell me to like it more. I have a friend that lives there, so I'm actually there all the time. So please don't find me. But yeah, I really do. Really, really hate Philadelphia. It's an awful
Hey,
place.
real quick. So, this is a little self-promotion from Philly Mambi, but we're not above that because
No.
this guy right here.
We
So
understand.
he says he has his own podcast. So Philly, if you haven't already, it sounds
Yeah.
like you've been following Tipton for actually quite some time. He mentioned that earlier in the chat, but follow me, follow Michael, follow at Win Daily Sports if you're not doing that already, and put it on my page. Let me know. Send me a message about your podcast. I'm always happy to listen to anybody's podcast because I think it's cool that people like stretch their legs, so to speak, and do stuff like that. So
Yes, I do respect
please
that.
do it for sure.
I'm very much into podcasts. It's my favorite thing I get to do. So yeah, I think this game's gonna suck. Probably gonna watch it though. Joke's on me. And here's the last one. Here we go. The NFL. This one, I mean, at the beginning of the season, actually, wasn't interesting, but we got New York, we got Tom Brady, we have storylines. Now I think it's just gonna be boring. But Tampa Bay traveling up to New York, line open at -8.5 to Tampa Bay. Looks like it's at 10.5 now. They got the hook. 65% of the bets, 65% of the money coming in on the Bucks. Over under sits at about 46 right now. Tipton, tell me the Giants cover the spread.
I will tell you. I'm gonna give you some angles to hopefully
Angles. There we go.
help you see it here. TB12 is rolling here, right? He's been doubted. Now he's just crushing it again, waxing Rodgers, right? Giving Gruden a little bit of a beat down and kind of a little nostalgic game between Tampa Bay and Gruden there. And now we here come to lowly old Giants on the Monday Night Football with the Saints on deck, and maybe because I know it's a short week and got some aging veterans. Yeah, maybe I just want to get the win and get out of there. Possibly, I can see that happening. Laying double digits is never easy. The Giants are not good, and it's tough to make a case for them. But betting the NFL is very situational. And this is a situation that certainly lines up for a little bit of a lull. Just again, a little bit of the eye off the ball can mean the difference in a touchdown, can mean the difference in covering. And there's a little something in the gambling world. Monday night game tends to be a bit of a bailout game. So how many dollars do you think that are going to be put on the Bucks from folks who have gotten their ass handed to them from Thursday to Sunday and are gonna try to bail themselves out with the Bucks? So I am going to bet the Giants. You may have heard me say this a time or two. I'm going to hold my nose and take whatever line I get with the Giants because it will stink. And as I said, good bets hurt sometimes. This one is going to hurt to press confirm on, but I'm going to do it. Giants.
It's probably gonna hurt a lot, man. But I have to. You've said it too many times. I have to bring it up. Good money doesn't bet bad teams. And dude, this Giants team is just god awful. Like how are you're going to you got too many rules, man. They're starting to contradict each other.
I know. Sometimes I hate the way I am. A good friend of mine said that, and this is one of those times. But sometimes there's always an exception to the rule, and here's one of them. Like I said, I went against my own rule last week against the Jets, so maybe I'm picking the right spot again here. But the situation certainly sets up for an attractive double-digit home dog and a bailout situation on Monday night game.
I am curious. Do you think the line continues to grow, or do you think it comes back down a little bit to under? Get back down to that 9.5 number.
Yeah, I mean, early betting's typically sharp money, late betting's typically public money. So at some point, if it continues to go right, I will say this: if it continues to fly right, I think it opened under 10, right? It's crossing
10 and
over
a half.
10 now. It's a key number. If it continues to rise, right, I'll back off for sure. But if it sticks right here and doesn't go any further, maybe a half a point, even dips back down, I'll feel certainly confident enough to play it. I certainly wouldn't play it, with any gravity in terms of dollars, but that is a good point. If it continues to rise, that's going to take me off the Giants. But if it sticks here and even falls back, I'll feel more confident for sure.
I like that. Sia, what do you got? You taking the Giants? You tailing Tipton?
So I should take the Giants, but I'll tell you, it's funny. Actually, before I get to this, I noticed that my guy Aldo just came into the comments with some like random question about the Seahawks. I actually, he's a guy I know. I actually promised him I would say this on his behalf. So real quick, this is super quick. So last year, I won. I was in 4 fantasy football leagues. I won 3 of them. The fourth one, there's a point to this other than, self-indulgence. Yeah. The fourth one, Aldo beat me in the championship. And I didn't think he was any good at fantasy football. Mm-hmm. And by the way, as of like 3 days ago, I didn't really either, except for the fact, this is a backhanded compliment, Aldo, except for the fact that I played him last week and he completely whipped my ass. And so he texted me and I promised him I would mention him if he watched the show. So Aldo, you got the best of me. Now that's twice in a row. So you are the king right now. Hats off to you. So speaking of suckers, you see that, Aldo? Speaking of suckers, I'm going to recommend the most suckerish bet. So we've been doing the handicapping thing. Like Tipton's been doing it way longer than we have, Michael, of course. But, I've been in the game for like quite some time. And there's always that guy that's like, hey, man, I got the most awesome parlay for you. I'm going to kill it this week. It's a 3-gamer. I'm going to do this. That guy eventually, after he loses, 30, 40, 50 deposits over, a few years time, he actually graduates to, I'm going to tease these 2 games. I'm going to manipulate the line. I'm going to tease these 2 games. And if you're teasing and you're parlaying, like you're a sucker, you are a bookmaker's dream. I think we all know that. I mean, for those of you watching, if that's what you're doing, you're not winning long term.
One thing I will say, except soccer. I found out it's really easy to bet soccer. You just take whoever's heavily favored and add all those points together. But I'm sorry.
That actually makes sense in a low variance sport like soccer. That makes sense in terms of scoring. So anyway, you have the tease scenario that you don't want to do, but look at these 2 NFC East games. Like, how could I possibly resist knowing and fully acknowledging it's a sucker bet? A 6-point tease or a 6.5-point tease with the Eagles tease down to 1.5. And the Buccaneers tease down to 4.5 or 4 or 3.5 if you want to get frisky on a 7-point tease. I mean, do we see the Eagles losing this game to the Cowboys? I don't think there's a scenario where I actually can see a game script like that.
I did.
And the Buccaneers, the thing about the Buccaneers, so they have no Godwin, and who knows if Fournette or Rojo is going to like sort of take over that backfield. I don't know that it matters. The thing that's really keeping me from thinking about the Giants plus 10.5 is that Tampa defense. The defensive line and the back end, the secondary and the linebackers, like they're all playing really well. It's not something that's really talked about because everybody wants to talk about Brady, but this defense was pretty good last year too. And they're young and they're growing up. And if I'm a defensive back or an Ndamukong Suh or a lineman on this team, and I know I get to play the Giants on national television, I am bawling out because I'm so tired of hearing everybody talk about Tom Brady instead of us. So I think it's going to be like a feasting type atmosphere for that defense. And that's why I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and give the 10.5 points, but I'll also take the sucker bet and see if I can get the Sunday night, Monday night football thing going for a giant tease.
I love it. That's fun. I like that a lot. One thing I will say, Giants offensive line, I think outside of the Cowboys, and only because the Cowboys offensive line is just completely, they're all injured at this point. I think literally every single one. Same thing with the Eagles.
Zach Martin is coming back. Just
he is
FYI.
coming back. Okay.
Yeah, but still, they still
Cowboys traded away Everson Griffin. Not that I think it actually mattered, like literally at all, but they get a conditional 6th for Everson Griffin. Shout out to him for that. Yeah, I don't see the Giants. Tipton, I love and understand and respect everything you say, but as a very pessimistic Giants fan, I don't see them scoring 10 points in this game, let alone covering a 10-point spread. So I'm going to stick with you because you're much smarter and more handsome than I am, but I can't. It's terrible. They've done this to me. It's not even my fault. It's their fault. I can't.
I get it. I get it. I find myself on an island more often than I'd like to in the sports betting world, and this is
But
this is
that's
definitely
not
one
a
of those
good thing,
times.
though.
Yeah, sometimes, but it's lonely. It gets lonely. You like to root with people, but I can't. It's tough to argue the other side too. They've been so bad, but you know who else knows how bad they've been? Mr. Linesmaker. So if they are
Mhm.
that bad,
That's
that
true.
line that line would be moving. So they are pretty smart as well. I'm sure they're handsome too. But again, we'll see. Again, we'll see how this line moves. If it hangs there at 11 and goes down, I'll be on the Giants for sure. If it keeps rising, that'll certainly change my position.
I like it. We'll see what happens there. We have Rich Masana in here wondering what the prop is going to be for Danny Dimes turnovers. Probably going to be at 2.5. I have to assume because I think it's been 2 in like every single game except for 1 this year and pretty much his entire career at this point. So probably going to put that at 2.5. Maybe if you're lucky,
I
you'll
don't
get
think
it
it'll
at
be
2.
that high.
Maybe you're lucky you'll get it at 2 so you can have the push. There, see it. You
Yeah,
happy?
there
You
you go.
happy? Awesome. Eric, you have been absolutely fantastic. Where can everybody find you on the internet in case they didn't watch the live stream and just are listening to the podcast right now?
Yeah, just these days, just at etip11 on Twitter.
Yeah.
Obviously not as much analysis as I would typically have provided in the past, but becoming kind of get back into being more consistent and posting. Took a little break from college for a while, and NFL has been really hitting this year. And a lot of the variables I put into my handicapping equation. Sometimes you take it on the chin week after week. But to the earlier point, right? You have a process, and it's kind of a blackjack strategy, man. You play one way, and that's the way you play. And so this year, things are feeling good and in a groove. So at etip11 on Twitter.
I love it. Sia, where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me in Discord as always, in the NFL room and in the golf room, among others. But yeah, at Sia Najad, SIANEJAD. And you can find all of this for anybody that's listening that hasn't heard us the first time on our YouTube channel or at Win Daily Sports on Twitter and various other outlets.
Yes. I usually say the podcast, but Sia wants everybody to see him. So yes, he always usually sends people to YouTube. I send people to the podcast. It's like this whole thing. At least we're sending everybody to the right places.
I didn't know why I defaulted to that.
Yeah,
And
it's
you are
'cause
this
you
is like
want
a
people to see
couch
that.
session where you're
Mhm.
like telling
Yeah.
me like what my like issues are. It's
I
pure vanity.
Sia, you
Wow.
knew what your issues were, bud. Like, it has
No, I
nothing
don't
to
think
do
I
with
did. I just got to check my hair real
your
quick.
hair looks great. Don't worry. Awesome. Eric, this has been absolutely fantastic. Sincerely appreciate having you on. Hope to have you on again very soon in the future. You were absolutely fantastic. One last thing, Philly Mombi. I asked for the podcast and he just sent at symbol Luca Tiger LeBron, all one word. So I don't know if we're supposed to follow that or if that's the name of the podcast. If it is, it's definitely different and I don't mind it. He said they talk about sports cards. I hate Philadelphia, but I do respect people. And it seems like he has a sports card podcast. So, hey, send me over the link, send Sia the link. Maybe we could throw it in the show notes for you. You can find me at Michael Raziel1. You can find us at Win Daily Sports. One more time for the people in the back, windailysports.com/chat. 7 free days in the expert chat if you want. Win Daily Sports betting membership. We put up all our plays about an hour before the game. So as Eric was saying, sometimes you like to see and wait and see what everyone else is doing because sometimes you can pick the suckers that way. That is what Capper Steve does. And Capper Steve has been rocking a couple 20-unit weekends. And his units, when he wins 20 of them, he could put a down payment on a house. So I just want to kind of put that out there in the world and understand what he's doing with that. Make sure, again, windailysports.com/chat. Come talk to us. For ETIP11, our illustrious, esteemed guest, for CF, for myself, for the rest of the Win Daily Sports family, we all hope you make it a very profitable week 8 of the NFL.